My child was wheeled into surgery at 6:30 a.m. At 6:32, my family texted, "Wire $10,000 now. Family is supposed to help." I actually laughed. They hadn't bothered to show up at the hospital. 10 minutes later, my account was frozen by an urgent family directive. They forgot one crucial detail. I'm the one who approves those directives, at the very institution they just called. My name is Marin Blake. I'm 33 years old, and at 6:15 in the morning, in the surgical waiting room of St. Laurel Children's, I was learning the precise temperature of dread. It was cold, not a gentle, sleepy chill, but an active, biting cold that seeped through my thin hoodie and seemed to latch onto my wrists. The air smelled of industrial-grade antiseptic and the burnt, watery coffee I'd abandoned on the table. Every sound was magnified. The click-clack of a nurse's sensible shoes down the hall, the low mechanical hum of the ventilation system, the squeak of my own sneakers on the polished linoleum as I shifted, unable to settle in the rigid vinyl chair. This was Grayford. This was the place where children came to be fixed. I was staring at a clipboard. The paper was crisp, the type small and absolute. I, Marin Blake, do hereby consent. It's a 3-hour procedure, Ms. Blake, Dr. Aris said. His voice was practiced, a smooth baritone designed to soothe. It slid right off me. I wasn't looking at his kind, tired eyes. I was looking at the gold tie clip on his navy blue tie, a small, shiny anchor in a sea of terrifying medical jargon. We make the incision here. Bypass. Complications are rare, but we must list them. He kept talking. I kept reading. Risk of bleeding. Risk of infection. Potential for... I stopped reading. I picked up the cheap ballpoint pen chained to the board. My hand was steady. It was the only part of me that was... I signed my name. The ink was black. Definitive. A contractual obligation for hope. "We'll take excellent care of him," Dr. Aris said, giving my shoulder a brief, firm squeeze before he disappeared through the double doors marked "Surgical Personnel Only." I sat back down. 6:29 a.m. The large institutional clock on the wall clicked, the second hand sweeping with agonizing slowness. 1 minute. He was being prepped. He was being counted down. At 6:32 a.m., my phone vibrated against my thigh. The vibration felt obscene, a jolt of the messy outside world invading this sterile sanctuary of fear. I pulled it out. The screen lit up, blindingly bright in the dim waiting area. A notification from the group chat. Family only. The irony of that name was a physical ache. Family only consisted of my stepfather, Colin, his sister, my aunt, Vera, and my half-brother, Finn, the holy trinity of fabricated emergencies. I opened the message. "Marin, need you to send $10K before 7 a.m. We just managed to keep the house. Had to scrape everything together. It's done. But we need the float immediately. Family is supposed to help each other. It's for everyone's peace of mind, so your son can be at ease." I read it twice. The words swam, then sharpened into hideous clarity. Before 7 a.m., a deadline. Keep the house. Theirs, naturally. The bottomless money pit in the suburbs I'd never lived in, so your son can be at ease. That was the line. The emotional shiv slid neatly between my ribs. The implication that my child, at this very second being put under general anesthesia, somehow carried the burden of their financial irresponsibility. The suggestion that my focus should be anywhere but on the small, still form behind those double doors. A laugh threatened to bubble up. It was a hysterical, jagged thing. I swallowed it down. It tasted like bile and old coffee. My thumbs moved over the screen. They felt disconnected from my body. Precise and cold. "Thanks, no." I sent it. I didn't reread. I didn't hesitate. I pressed the volume rocker and engaged the silent switch. The phone went dark. I shoved it deep into the pocket of my hoodie, a piece of toxic, radioactive waste I could no longer handle. I needed to be clean for this. I needed to be nothing but a mother, waiting. I sat. The clock clicked. 6:35. 6:40. I couldn't sit. I stood up, the vinyl chair making a rude tearing sound as it unpeeled from my jeans. I needed coffee. The burnt sludge from the waiting room pot wasn't enough. I needed the jolt from the vending machine down the hall, the expensive, sugary kind that coats your teeth. I walked down the corridor, my footsteps echoing. The machine glowed in the hallway, a beacon of normalcy. I selected a mocha latte, the screen demanding $4.50. I pulled out my debit card, the one linked to my personal checking, the one I used for moments just like this. I inserted the chip, the machine beeped, the screen flashed. Transaction denied. I frowned. That wasn't possible. I had just been paid. I tried again. Transaction denied. A new coldness, entirely different from the room's chill, spiked down my spine. This wasn't a machine error. This was a system flag. I stepped to the side, out of the way of a passing orderly, and pulled out my personal phone. I opened my Westridge Credit Union banking app. I didn't even get to the password screen. A red banner dominated the login page. Account access restricted. Please contact your local branch or call 1-800 for assistance. I didn't need to call. I knew exactly what that banner meant. It wasn't a standard velocity flag for a suspicious purchase. It wasn't an overdraft. It was a manual override. A code 12B, compromised holder, freeze. They hadn't just asked. They had acted. The blood didn't drain from my face. It felt like it turned to ice water in my veins. The mother receded, and the professional surfaced, sharp and furious. They had come into my house. I reached into my bag and pulled out my company tablet. It was heavier than the clipboard, a solid slab of secure, encrypted corporate power. I powered it on. The familiar blue and gray login screen of Westridge Credit Union appeared. My world, my fortress. I thumbed in my 12-digit administrative password, then my security token's 6-digit rotating PIN. The VPN icon spun for a half second, connecting, building a secure tunnel from this hospital hallway straight into the digital heart of the credit union. My dashboard loaded, not the customer-facing one. This was the back end, the nervous system. Q. Fraud monitoring. A new ticket sat at the very top, flagged priority red, blinking with urgency. Ticket 884G. Opened 6:41:03 a.m. Source: inbound call, Tier 1. Support caller ID blocked. Anonymous. ACCT. Holder Blake. Marin request. Urgent account freeze. Caller identifies as family. Aunt. States account holder is under severe emotional distress. Son in major surgery. Caller states holder is not in her right mind and making erratic decisions. Caller is concerned holder will drain her own accounts, requesting protective freeze to stop her from hurting herself. I read the summary, and the ice in my veins began to boil. The script. They had used the script, the one I had written the training module for. Social Engineering 101, Exploiting Familial Concern. They had used the key phrases. Not in her right mind. Emotional distress. Protect her. These were magic words, designed to panic a junior representative into bypassing security protocols. And at 6:41 a.m., it had apparently worked. My card was denied at 6:42. A 90-second turnaround. Impressive. They were amateurs, but they were motivated amateurs. I walked, tablet in hand, to the main nurse's station. A woman with a kind face looked up. "Ma'am, any news?" "No, not yet," I said, my voice perfectly level. I held up my corporate ID. "I'm sorry. This is an emergency. I'm a fraud administrator at Westridge. My accounts were just targeted. May I please use your desk phone? I need a secure, recorded landline." She saw the look in my eyes, the name on the badge. She didn't question it. She just pushed her phone across the desk. "Go ahead." I picked up the receiver. The dial tone was a comforting hum. I dialed my direct line to the 24/7 monitoring floor. It would bypass the queue and go straight to the shift supervisor. One ring. "Fraud. Baron speaking." "Baron? Good. He was the best, a night shift cynic who trusted no one. "Baron, it's Blake." "Marin?" His voice sharpened. "It's 6:45 in the morning. You're not on… Is it today? With your son?" "It's today. He's in now." I didn't let my voice waver. "I need you to listen to me very carefully. Pull up ticket 884G. I heard his keyboard clicking, a long, low whistle. "Jesus, Marin, that's your account. I saw it pop. I thought it was a test you were running." "It's not a test, Baron. They just locked me out of my own funds while I'm standing in the surgical waiting room." Another pause. The professional concern in his voice was replaced by a sudden, cold anger. "Who is they?" "I need the full audio from the inbound call at 6:41:03 a.m., the one that generated this ticket. Encrypt it, flag it as Case Gray 17, and push it to my secure admin folder. Do not attach it to the public ticket. I want it firewalled. Now." "On it," he said. The clicking became more frantic. "This is… Marin, this is messy. The Tier 1 rep who took it is new. He bought the whole story. Hysterical mother. Family intervention. They really sold it. They're good at sales. Baron, do you have the audio?" "Got it. Pushing. Now. Encrypted. Firewalled. Case Gray 17. You should have it." My tablet pinged. The file was there. "Good. Now, I need you to do 2 more things for me," I said, my voice dropping. "First, unlock my account. Full privileges. Effective immediately." "Done," he said. "Second?" "I want you to set a trap. Put a high-priority flag on my file. Any inbound call, any related to my name or my accounts, from any number not explicitly on my safe list, gets escalated immediately. But here's the key. They are not to be routed to standard customer service. They are to be routed directly to the Tier 3 escalation line, my line, the one I'm forwarding to my tablet right now." Baron was silent for a beat. He understood. I wasn't just fixing a problem. I was setting up a sting. "Marin," he said slowly, "the T3 line is recorded for legal compliance. Full warning given." "I know," I said. "That's why we're using it." "Okay, flag is set. Any call mentioning Marin Blake or your account numbers is now a hot transfer straight to you, with full legal recording enabled. You got anything else?" "Just the audio. Did you listen to it?" "Yeah," he said, and his voice was grim. "I listened as it was uploading. It's something else. The caller ID was blocked. VoIP, but the voice, it sounds like someone reading a script. Marin, badly, like they're holding the phone away from their face, and there's whispering in the background, coaching, telling them what to say. It sounds like it's coming from inside your own house." "They are," I said, looking at the double doors my son had vanished through. "They're always listening. Be careful. This is not procedure." "This stopped being procedure when they used my son as leverage for $10,000. I hung up the phone. I looked at the tablet. The file was there. Case Gray 17. I didn't listen to it. Not yet. The clock on the wall read 6:58 a.m. The surgeon had made his first incision, and I, in the cold, antiseptic light of the hallway, had just sharpened my own scalpel. I bought the mocha latte from the vending machine. The transaction went through instantly. The machine whirred, clicked, and dropped the paper cup with a hollow thud. I was back in control of my own $4.50. I walked back to the vinyl chair and sat down. The liquid was scalding, a chemical approximation of chocolate that coated my tongue. It was perfect. The sharp, adrenaline-fueled focus of the call with Baron began to recede, replaced by the familiar, dense weight of my reality. Case Gray 17. It wasn't just a ticket number. It was the private designation I'd given to the entire toxic ecosystem I'd crawled out of. It was the name for them. I glanced at my dark phone. For years, I'd kept a photo of them in a buried album. The one from last Thanksgiving, the one Colin insisted on having printed, matted, and framed in the entryway of his Grayford house. It's a masterpiece of domestic propaganda. In the photo, A long, polished mahogany table gleams under soft lighting. A turkey, bronzed and glistening as if lacquered by a prop artist, sits center stage. Wine glasses are held high. And the smiles, God, the smiles. They are wide, toothy, and perfectly angled, radiating a manufactured warmth. It looks like a stock photo, a print advertisement for a mid-range dental insurance plan, or a 55 and older community. This is the Blake Lane Collective, as Colin, my stepfather, loves to call it. Colin is the patriarch, the self-appointed CEO of this dysfunctional enterprise. He loves the word collective. He wields it like a combination shield and collection plate. The family is a collective, Marin, he'd proclaim, usually when one of his own utility bills was threatening disconnection. We all pull our weight, but in Colin's world, pulling weight was a complex algorithm of emotional manipulation that always resolved to a simple, one-way wire transfer from my checking account. His contribution was vision and management. He managed the family's image, which mostly meant leasing a new Audi Q5 he couldn't afford to impress neighbors who didn't care. He was the one who added that line to the 6:32 a.m. text. "So your son can be at ease." That was his signature, a little twist of emotional leverage, wrapped in the language of paternal concern. He was trying to imply that my son's recovery was somehow tied to their financial stability. It was masterful, in its own grotesque way. Then there is Vera, his sister, my aunt. Vera is the organizer. If Colin is the delusional CEO, Vera is the chaotic, high-strung CFO, operating in a constant state of self-induced panic. She organizes debt. She organizes a dizzying shell game of 0% APR credit card offers, juggling catastrophic balances between Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, always one promotional period away from total collapse. She is the one who changes her phone number every 6 months because, as she breathlessly explains, she's just plagued by robocalls. We all know it's because collections agencies have learned her previous number. Vera lives on the phone, spinning tales of hardship to beleaguered customer service representatives. She has a Ph.D. in sounding convincingly hysterical. Of course it was her voice on the 6:41 a.m. call. She was the natural choice. She's had the most practice. And finally, rounding out the trio, Finn, my half-brother. Finn is the perpetual investment in the future. He is always one weekend seminar away from revolutionizing an industry he knows nothing about. Last month, it was dropshipping artisanal soaps. Before that, a certification course in life coaching for pets. This month, it was a $5,000 e-commerce mastery course that promised 6-figure returns in 90 days. Finn never, ever makes it to lesson 2. His ventures all require seed capital, a term he uses interchangeably with your savings. His contribution to the collective is potential. He is the human equivalent of a lottery ticket they insist I keep buying. He was, undoubtedly, the frantic whispering baron heard in the background of the audio file. Tell her. Say it faster. He's the hype man for his own impending failure, and he needs me to bankroll the production. These 3 people, my family, they are bound by a shared blood type, entitlement, and they share one profound, unifying allergy. They hate hospitals. They hate the smell of antiseptic, which clings to everything. They hate the quiet, squeaking shoes. They hate the inflexible truth of a diagnosis, the fluorescent lights that expose every flaw and every lie. A hospital is a place of consequences. But more than any of that, they hate hospital bills. A medical bill is a concrete problem. It can't be solved with a vague promise or a new startup idea. It is a non-negotiable debt that follows you, that attaches to your credit, that has legal weight. They prefer their emergencies to be self-created, flexible, and above all, someone else's fault. My son's heart surgery is none of those things. It is rigid, terrifying, and expensive. It is, in their private calculus, a bad investment. It's a black hole of need that offers them no return. My son's biological father vanished 3 years ago. leaving nothing behind but a PO box address and a pile of excuses. The family-only chat group never acknowledged his absence. They just saw the vacuum. A single mother, stably employed, with good benefits. I was no longer a daughter or a sister. I was a resource. For 3 years, the requests have been a steady, pounding drumbeat against the hull of my life. Finn, hey Marin, just need 2K temporary. I swear. This crypto thing is guaranteed. Colin. Vera's in a real jam. The car's about to be towed. We, as a collective, need to step up. 1.5K should cover it. Vera. Darling, my phone's off again. Can you just cover this month's bill? I'll get you back next week. Next week is a mythical, shimmering destination. Like El Dorado or Narnia, it never arrives. In all those texts, all those breathless calls for temporary loans that evaporated on contact, not one of them ever contained the simple question, when is his surgery date? Not one. They knew it was coming up. They referred to it as that hospital thing. It was a vague inconvenience on the horizon, a time when they knew I'd be distracted and possibly too emotional to approve their latest request. They never asked for the day. They never asked for the time. Why would they? It wasn't their emergency. Until this morning, when they realized the emergency could be monetized. I didn't plan this. I didn't join Westridge Credit Union as part of some long-con revenge plot. I joined Westridge because I was a terrified single mother with a child who had a complex congenital heart defect, and they offered the best PPO health insurance plan in the state. I started in data entry, a quiet woman in a gray cubicle, just trying to keep her head down and her benefits active. But it turned out I had a talent, a very specific talent, honed by 20 years of living with them. I recognize patterns. I know the precise smell of financial desperation. I know the sloppy, predictable tells of a social engineer. I know the cadence of a practiced lie, the slight, upward lilt in the voice when they feign authority, the micro pause when they invent a supporting detail, the sudden, theatrical outrage when they're questioned. My entire childhood was an apprenticeship in fraud detection. At Westridge, I got promoted, then I got promoted again. My family just knows I work at the bank. They imagine I'm a glorified teller, or maybe a mid-level loan officer. They think I stamp deposit slips and ask, "How would you like that?" They have absolutely no idea that my title is Senior Investigator, Internal Fraud and Social Engineering. They don't know that I designed the SOS relative protocol they just triggered. They don't know that I wrote the script the Tier 1 representative followed, the script they themselves tried to use against me. They don't know that I built the logic traps, the escalation paths, and the very system architecture that just flagged their call. I am the architect of the fortress they are currently trying to loot. I am the person who analyzes the financial fingerprints left behind by predators. And my own family, my collective, just pressed their entire, greasy, desperate palms against the glass. My greatest survival skill, the one I perfected at countless dysfunctional Thanksgiving dinners, became my greatest professional asset. I learned to be quiet. I learned to hold the silence. People like Colin, Vera, and Finn cannot stand a vacuum. Silence makes them profoundly nervous. They will fill it. They will rush in with words, with justifications, with boasts, with accusations, with flimsy lies that contradict the flimsy lies they told 10 minutes prior. They will talk and talk and talk. And if you just sit there and nod and listen, they will eventually hand you the complete, unvarnished, annotated confession. They will tell you exactly how they plan to betray you. They will even tell you why. They always talk. The institutional clock on the wall clicked. 7:03 a.m. The waiting room was still silent. Save for the hum of the lights, the mocha was gone, leaving a sugary film in my mouth. My son was in there. I was out here. My company tablet, resting on my lap, vibrated. Not my personal phone, the tablet. The screen lit up, a red banner, just as I had designed. Inbound call. Tier 3 escalation. Caller ID, Vera Lane. System flag, SOS relative. priority. They were talking, right on schedule. I slipped the corporate headset on. I tapped the screen. The connection was instant. "Thank you for calling Westridge Credit Union Escalations," I said, my voice perfectly flat, professional, and unrecognizable. "This call is being recorded for quality assurance and legal purposes. My name is Marin. How can I help you?" This is not a job for the faint of heart. My official title at Westridge Credit Union is Senior Investigator for Personal Transaction Fraud. It's a purposefully bland title. It conjures images of gray cubicles, adding machines, and quiet, meticulous paperwork. The administrative drabness is intentional. It's a shield. The reality is that I am the final stop. When a file lands on my virtual desk, it means the system has seen something it cannot explain. Something that smells fundamentally wrong. I am the institution's professional skeptic. My credentials grant me access to the central nervous system of our members' financial lives. I have root-level clearance to pull the full, unedited audio recordings of any call that enters our system. I can trace the true IP address of any login attempt, bypassing the anonymous proxies. I see the geolocation pings from every app login. I review the complex, invisible risk flags that our algorithms attach to an account. Flags that mark a member's behavior patterns. Are they sudden? Are they frantic? Are they being coerced? I don't just review fraud. I hunt it, I anticipate it, and in some cases, I build the very traps designed to catch it. Years ago, I identified a glaring vulnerability. It was a pattern of behavior, a series of calls that always followed the same emotional script. A frantic daughter claiming her elderly father was confused and sending money to scammers. A furious ex-husband demanding a freeze on a joint account because his wife was unstable and draining the funds. They were all leveraging the same weapon, emotional coercion. They were using familial concern as a battering ram to bypass security. The junior reps, trained to be helpful, were susceptible. They were afraid of not helping someone in genuine distress. So I designed the protocol. I named it the SOS Relative Filter. It's an algorithm that runs in the background of our Tier 1 support system. It listens. It scans for high-emotion keywords: unstable, confused, dementia, distress. Not in their right mind, used in direct conjunction with a non-holder's request for an account freeze or transfer, the filter doesn't block the call. It simply flags it. It flashes a bright red warning on the rep's screen. Potential social engineering, verify authority, do not proceed without notarized POA. And it sends a silent copy of the call's metadata straight to my team's queue. The rule is the foundation of modern banking, yet it's the one that family always thinks they can bend. The rule is absolute. No one, not a mother, not a spouse, not a frantic aunt, gets to lock, freeze, or access an account that does not bear their name, period. The only, and I mean the only exception, is a legally binding, fully executed, properly filed, notarized. Power of attorney document. A POA is a legal instrument. A hysterical phone call is just noise. This is the firewall. It is the bright, sharp line that separates family drama from federal wire fraud. I sat back in the vinyl chair, the hospital's artificial chill sinking into my bones. The mocha was gone. I opened my tablet, the VPN connection a solid, unwavering icon in the corner of my screen. It was 6:45 a.m. I pulled up the ticket Barron had referenced. Ticket 884G. It was time to perform the autopsy on the 6:41 a.m. call. The junior rep, a new hire named Kyle, had done his best. His summary notes were detailed, typed in a frantic staccato. 6:41:03, inbound call, blocked ID. 6:41:10, caller self-identifies as Vera Lane. Aunt of member Marin Blake. 6:41:15, caller is in high emotional distress. States member's son is in major life-threatening surgery right this second. 6:41:20, caller states member is not mentally stable and not in her right mind. States member is threatening to drain her accounts and give all her money away. 6:41:30. Caller requests urgent protective freeze to stop Marin from ruining her own life. 6:41:55. Rep initiated 12B. Compromised holder freeze based on credible threat. Kyle had bought the whole script. He'd seen the major surgery note, a detail I'm sure Vera delivered with a choked sob, and his empathy had overruled his training. He'd hit the panic button. This was the script I'd trained against, and they had nailed it. They had used the precise, terrifying, medical truth of my son's situation as the key to unlock the emotional distress override. I drilled down, past the summary, into the raw metadata. The call originated from a blocked anonymous number. Amateurs. They think pressing 67 makes them invisible. To me, it's a flashing neon sign. A blocked call still carries a source marker. I ran the marker against our VoIP provider database. 10 seconds. That's all it took. The call wasn't from a phone. It was routed through a cheap, pay-as-you-go VoIP service, a digital burner phone, the kind you use for telemarketing scams or, in this case, familial fraud. I pulled the account information for the VoIP service. Account holder. Collin Solutions, LLC. A bitter laugh escaped me, short and sharp. It sounded like a bark in the quiet hallway. Collin Solutions, the consulting firm my stepfather had supposedly dissolved 3 years ago after it spectacularly failed, leaving a trail of unpaid invoices. He was too arrogant, or too stupid, to even invent a fake name. He was sloppy. Then, I opened the audio file, the one Baron had pushed to my secure, firewalled folder, Case Gray 17. I put in my right earbud, leaving my left ear open. I had to be able to hear a doctor's footsteps. I had to be two people at once. The mother, waiting for news, and the investigator, building her case. I pressed play. Vera's voice flooded my ear, thin, reedy, and pitched to a perfect imitation of hysteria. Yes, I am her aunt, and she is just not in her right mind. Her son, her poor boy, it's just terrible. She's going to empty her accounts. She's threatening to give it all away. You have to stop her. Please. But it was wrong. I closed my eyes, listening not to the words, but to the cadence. She was enunciating too clearly. She was performing. Real panic is messy. It overlaps. It stammers. This was a speech. And then I heard it. A faint, rhythmic shh sound in the background, perfectly synced with her pauses. It was the sound of paper, a page turning, or a note card being shuffled. She was reading from a script. I listened to the end. I heard the moment the Rep Kyle folded. Okay, ma'am. Okay. I'm initiating the protective hold now. The account is frozen. Oh, thank God, Vera breathed. Thank you. Thank you. You've saved her. And then, just before the click, a muffled, male voice from somewhere behind her. Sharp, impatient. Good. Now hang up. Hurry up. Finn, the stage manager. My fingers were cold, but they moved with precision across the tablet screen. I tagged the audio file. I appended my notes to the firewalled case file, timestamping my analysis. Tag, fraud, confirmed family social engineering. Tag, actors, Vera Lane, voice, Colin Blake, VoIP, Finn, Blake, support. Severity, critical. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a conspiracy, a targeted, malicious, and coordinated attack to gain unauthorized financial control by leveraging a child's medical emergency. I checked the escalation path Baron had set at my request. It was perfect. My internal rule, the one I'd trained every representative on, was clear. If a caller fails authentication but tries again, especially on a file already flagged for SOS relative fraud, the system recognizes it as a persistent, aggressive attack. It's no longer a customer service issue. It's a security threat. The system is designed to automatically escalate that second call. It bypasses Tier 1 and Tier 2 entirely. It routes directly to the Tier 3 legal warning line. My line. The one I was currently monitoring from a hospital hallway. They would call again. I was certain of it. The $10,000 text at 6:32 a.m. was Plan A. The 6:41 a.m. unstable call was Plan B, designed to freeze my assets, panic me, and force me to negotiate with them to get my own money back. But I had unlocked my account. My $4.50 coffee was proof. They didn't know that yet, but they would. They'd be checking their own balances, waiting for the $10K to appear. When it didn't, they would panic. They would assume the first rep I spoke to, who they'd assume wasn't me, was incompetent. They would escalate. They would demand a manager. They would slam their fists on the counter, demanding to speak to someone in charge. And I would be waiting. I created a new encrypted folder in our secure cloud. I named it Case Gray 17. I moved the audio file into it. I moved the VoIP trace report. I moved the IP log from Colin's account. I screenshotted the 6:32 a.m. text message, send $10K, so your son can be at ease, and added that, too, a neat, tidy, digital package of evidence, the full stop to their story, bound in legal code. I looked up at the wall. The institutional clock clicked. 6:58 a.m. Somewhere on the other side of those double doors, a surgeon, a person of science and skill, was meticulously cutting and suturing, repairing the flawed tissue that threatened my son's life. And I, in the cold, antiseptic light, was doing the same. I was a different kind of surgeon. My specialty was excising the rot. The scalpel was already in my hand. The clock on the wall clicked over to 7:03 a.m. In the surgical wing of St. Laurel Children's, the silence is a heavy, pressurized thing. It's not peaceful. It's a vacuum, waiting to be filled by the sound of running feet, by a code, by a voice. My son had been behind those double doors for 33 minutes. My world had shrunk to this single vinyl chair, this sterile corridor, and the two sets of doors. One set, separating me from my child. The other, the elevator bank, separating me from the world that didn't care. My company tablet vibrated on my lap, a sharp, insistent buzz. It wasn't a notification, it was a summons. A bright red banner flashed across the encrypted dashboard, the one I had designed myself. Inbound call. Tier 3 escalation. Caller ID, Vera Lane. Warning, SOS relative flag. The system had worked. Barron had set the trap, and she had walked right into it. The system had recognized her number from the notes in the 6:41 a.m. ticket and automatically escalated her second attempt. She wasn't calling a random rep. She was calling me. I slipped the single earbud headset on. My movements were fluid, automatic. Years of drills, years of simulations, years of listening to other people's predators. I took a slow breath, tasting the chemical staleness of the waiting room. I tapped accept. The line clicked open. The system, as designed, played the mandatory audio bumper. This call is being recorded for quality assurance and legal purposes. The recording was active. The trap was set. I did not give my name. I did not offer a greeting. I just opened the channel. How may I assist you? My voice was pitched low, neutral, the anonymous, authoritative voice of the institution. Yes. Hello? I called earlier. Vera's voice was sharp, impatient. The manufactured hysteria from 6:41 a.m. was gone. This was her, I demand to speak to a manager voice. It was brittle with entitlement. I spoke to a very unhelpful young man who was supposed to freeze my niece's account, but he didn't do it. It's not frozen. My $4.50 mocha. Of course, they must have been logged into my account, monitoring it, waiting for the $10,000 text to work. When it didn't, they called. And when the freeze they requested didn't stop a $4.50 transaction, they realized the first rep had either failed or been overridden. I am Vera Lane, she continued, speaking too fast. I am the family guardian for Marin Blake, That's Marin. I need you to reinstate the freeze. She is at the hospital. Her son is. It's very bad. And she is not stable. I am legally responsible for her. You must lock the account to protect her. Family guardian, a meaningless phrase, a legal phantom. I see the notes on the file, ma'am, I said, my voice as flat as the linoleum floor. To proceed with any account directive from a third party, I require legal authorization. Please provide the 14-digit file number for your notarized power of attorney. Silence, a dead, echoing void on the line. My what? Your power of attorney, I repeated. The notarized legal document, registered with the county clerk, that grants you fiduciary control over Ms. Blake's assets. I require the 14-digit file number and the date of registration. Another pause. This one was longer. The background noise on her end was thin, like an empty room. I have it. Of course I have it, she stammered. It's at home, in the safe. I'm not at home. I'm trying to handle this emergency. Can't you understand what I'm telling you? I understand, I said, my voice betraying nothing. But I cannot bypass federal banking regulations. However, there is an alternative verification. If you have the document, you can simply read the final line of the text, the fiduciary confirmation clause. I was lying. There is no standard fiduciary confirmation clause. It was a logic trap, a blank piece of paper I was asking her to sign. A real fiduciary would know it was nonsense. A liar would try to fill the silence. The silence stretched, and then I heard it. Faint, but the T3 line's audio capture is crystal clear. A whisper, frantic, male. Just say something. Make it up. Tell her. Finn. Vera's voice came back, but it had completely changed. The pretense of the concerned aunt and the angry manager both evaporated. All that was left was the raw, grating sound of her greed. Listen to me, she hissed, her voice dropping. I don't know what kind of computer watcher you are, but I am her family. I am her aunt. I have rights. I have the right to protect my family. Her son is in surgery. Do you understand me? We are trying to help, and you are blocking us. I am required to follow the law, I said. Your laws don't apply to family, she shrieked. I am telling you, as her guardian. I didn't let her finish. I hit the macro key on my tablet, the one labeled Legal Warn 134. Vera's tirade was cut short. She was now listening to a cold, synthesized, male voice. It was the recording I had personally approved with our legal team. An unauthorized attempt to gain access to a financial account by means of false representation is a violation of United States Code. Title 18, Section 1444. Falsifying legal authority or impersonating a fiduciary is a federal offense, punishable by fines and imprisonment. This interaction is logged and has been forwarded to our Compliance Division and Legal Counsel. Please hold for a licensed representative. There was a sharp intake of breath, a choked sound, half surprise, half rage. What is this? She started. Click. She was gone. She had hung up. I logged the entry in the firewalled case file. 70512. Caller Vera Lane terminated call after legal warning, 18 U.S.C. 1344. Was deployed. Failed to authenticate. Attempted to bypass POA requirement. I looked up. A nurse walked by, her shoes squeaking. She smiled at me. A quick, sympathetic glance. I nodded, my face a perfect mask of a waiting mother. Inside, I was calculating. They had failed. Plan A, the text, had failed. Plan B, the unstable call, had failed. Plan C, escalating to a manager, had just blown up in their faces. They were panicked. Vera was out. She had been legally spooked. Now, they would send in the patriarch, the lawyer, the negotiator. They would send in Colin. The tablet rang. The clock read 7:06 a.m. They hadn't even waited 90 seconds. Inbound call. Tier 3 escalation. Caller ID. Colin Solutions. LLC. Warning, SOS relative flag. He didn't even bother to block the VoIP identifier this time. The arrogance. He was so sure of his own authority. I accepted the call. This call is being recorded for legal purposes. How may I assist you? A new voice, lower, pompous, an attempt at a deep, authoritative baritone. It was Colin, putting on his important businessman voice. It was a terrible impression of a lawyer from a 1990s movie. Yes, he snapped, as if I had interrupted him. My name is Mr. Alden. I am the attorney representing the Blake Family Trust. I am calling regarding the gross incompetence of your staff and the threatening, automated message that was just played to my client, Ms. Vera Lane. Mr. Aden, his middle name, Sloppy. I am informing you, he continued, that your institution is in direct violation of its fiduciary duty. Your client, Ms. Marin Blake, is medically compromised and unable to manage her own affairs. We are her legal representatives, and we are ordering you to place an immediate protective hold on all her assets pending an emergency competency hearing. It was a good performance. He used all the right words. Fiduciary duty, competency hearing, ordering. He was betting that these words would panic me, just as Vera's unstable had panicked the Tier 1 rep. I can certainly document your request, sir, I said, my voice still a flat line of customer service. To which law firm are you affiliated? A beat, a fractional pause. I am with the Grayford Family Trust. We handle the family's estate. A complete fabrication. I typed it. Note: Grayford Family Trust returns 0 results in state business or bar association databases. Understood. Mr. Alden, I said, and what is your state bar association number? This was the checkmate, the one question no fake lawyer is ever prepared to answer. A real attorney would rattle it off as easily as their own social security number. Silence. Total, absolute, damning silence. I could hear the empty air in the room he was in. I could hear the faint sound of his breathing, suddenly shallow. That is privileged information, he finally sputtered, his fake baritone cracking. I am not required to give you that. I am telling you what you are legally required to do. I am unable to locate any attorney named Alden with a Grayford Family Trust in our system, sir, I said calmly, nor do we have any record of a pending petition for a competency hearing. If you would like to proceed, I will require 2 things. First, your BR number. Second, an official email from your registered firm's email address, sent to our legal intake department. I can provide you that secure address now. I didn't wait for him to answer. I delivered the final, crushing blow. To expedite this process, I am also, at this moment, sending an automated verification request to the email address we have on file for the source of this call, which is Collin Solutions, LLC. Please have your IT administrator respond to that email to validate your identity as a legal representative. I had just called his bluff. I had tied Mr. Alden the attorney directly to Collin Solutions, the failed LLC, running on a cheap VoIP. The 2 identities, the fake lawyer and the real fraudster, were now linked in an official bank record. He was caught. The silence on the line was a thing of beauty. It was the sound of a predator realizing it is no longer the hunter. I heard a muffled sound. Dad? Finn? Colin's voice. When it came, was unrecognizable. The lawyer was gone. The patriarch was gone. It was just a small, sputtering, angry man. You can't. This is harassment. Click. He was gone, too. I sat in the quiet hallway. The silence of the hospital rushed back in, but it felt different. It was no longer a vacuum. It was a space I had reclaimed. I turned to my tablet. My fingers flew across the virtual keyboard, logging the final entry for this encounter. 7:06:15. Inbound call. T3. Escalation. Source: Collin Solutions, LLC, VoIP. 7:06:30. Caller self-identifies as Mr. Alden, attorney for Grayford Family Trust. 7:07 Hunquag. Caller failed to provide state bar number or registered firm name. 7:07:45. Caller threatened fictitious legal action. Competency hearing. 7:08:10. Caller identity. Colin Blake. Cross-verified with source of 6:41 a.m. Fraud call. Caller terminated call when verification of identity was initiated. I added the new tags. Flag. Willful misrepresentation. Attorney impersonation. Flag. Coercion attempt. Exploitation of medical situation. I hit save, locking the file. The double doors of the OR remained closed. The clock on the wall read 7:10 a.m. The first part of my day was done. The trap was sprung. The evidence was secure. The clicks from Collins and Vera's hung-up calls were sharp, definitive. They sounded like file cabinets slamming shut. The adrenaline that had flooded my system, the hot, sharp-edged fury, began to recede. It left behind the familiar, steady hum of my professional self. The predator had been identified and repelled from the gate. Now, the real work began. Not the defense, the documentation. In my line of work, we have a saying: receipts, not revenge. Revenge is emotional, messy, and often illegal. Receipts are cold, factual, and admissible. I was still in the surgical waiting room. The clock read 7:10 a.m. I had at least 2 more hours of this sterile, silent vigilance. I was a mother, waiting, but I was also an investigator with an active, critical case file. I opened my tablet. I opened Case Gray 17. My job now was to build the box they would be buried in. And the beauty of this kind of fraud, the sloppy, arrogant, emotional kind, is that the perpetrators build it for you. You just have to assemble the pieces. They provide their own ink, their own paper, their own signatures. First, the timeline. This was the most critical piece. This was the moral and legal linchpin. I began compiling the log, cross-referencing my encrypted call metadata, my personal text messages, and the official hospital intake form I'd signed. Timeline of events. Case Gray 17. 6:15 a.m. M. Blake, member and employee, signed surgical consent forms. 6:29 a.m. Patient redacted. Transported to surgical OR 3. 6:30 a.m. Anesthesia initiated. 6:32 a.m. Inbound SMS to M. Blake from Family Only Group. C. Blake, V. Lane, F. Blake. Message demands $10,000 wire transfer. File. Exhibit a demand. PNG. 6:41 a.m. First inbound call to Westridge Tier 1. Caller, V. Lane, uses blocked VoIP. Source, Collins Solutions, LLC. Caller falsely claims member is mentally unstable and a danger to herself, leveraging child's life-threatening surgery to request unauthorized account freeze. 6:42 a.m. Tier 1 rep initiates protective freeze, code 12B. 6:45 a.m. M. Blake contacts fraud monitoring, Baron, via secure line, account unfrozen, trap set. 7:03 a.m. Second inbound call to Westridge T3 escalation. Caller ID, Vera Lane. Caller falsely identifies as family guardian and legally responsible, fails to provide POA, terminates call when 18 U.S.C. 1444 warning is played. 7:06 a.m. Third inbound call to Westridge T3. Escalation. Caller ID, Collins Solutions, LLC. Caller, C. Blake, falsely identifies as Mr. Alden. An attorney for a non-existent Grayford Family Trust, fails to provide state bar number, attempts legal threats, competency hearing, terminates call when identity verification is initiated. I saved the document. This timeline wasn't just damning, it was the complete inversion of their narrative. They weren't helping, they were attacking. They had coordinated their assault, the text, the first call, the escalation, to coincide with the precise, agonizing minutes my child was being put under. This wasn't panic, it was predation. Next, I ran the audio files. The T3 line captures pristine, high-fidelity audio. I isolated the recordings from 7:03 a.m. and 7:06 a.m. I ran them through our internal voice biometric analysis software, cross-referencing them with known voice prints on file. We had Vera's, from 3 separate calls she'd made in the last year, complaining about scam calls. We had Colin's, from his initial business account setup for Colin Solutions years ago. The system took less than 30 seconds. File: 703 Vive Lane, Wave, result, 97.8% probability match, Lane. Vera, file, 706 C Blake, Wave, result, 99.2% probability match, Blake, Colin. I attached the PDF analysis certificates to the case file. Exhibit B and Exhibit C. This was no longer an allegation. It was a biometric fact. Then, I did what they assumed I was too emotional to do. I analyzed their motive. I pulled their member profiles, linked to my case, as senior investigator. I had the clearance. I wasn't just a daughter, I was the bank. Their financial histories read like a textbook on desperation. It wasn't an accident. It was a behavioral pattern. Colin, a revolving door of payday loans, each one taken out to pay the minimum on 3 high-interest credit cards. His account was flagged for kiting, moving non-existent funds between banks. Vera, 4 maxed-out store cards, a 30-day, then 60-day, then 90-day late payment streak on her car loan. Her FICO score was in the low 400s. She was a ghost. Finn, a checking account with an average balance of $12.50. It showed a history of small deposits. From me, I noted with a cold pang, followed by immediate 100% withdrawals to online entities with names like Ecom Gurus and Crypto Fast. This was the collective, not a family, but a drowning pact, and they were trying to use me as a flotation device. I wrote a summary memo, attached it. Exhibit D, Financial Motive Analysis. I went back to the VO IP log. The name Colin Solutions, LLC, it was so perfectly, fatally naive. He was using a business tool, registered in his own name, to commit a personal felony. He was too arrogant to even cover his tracks. I screenshotted the account dashboard. Exhibit E, Source of Fraudulent Calls. I logged into my corporate email. I searched my archive. Finn, there it was. An email from 3 weeks ago. Subject: Massive opportunity. Hey Marin, so this is the one. I just need $5,000 to get in on the ground floor. It's a new crypto protocol. It's guaranteed. Can you float me? I'll pay you back next week. Probably double. I had never even dignified it with a response. I saved the email. Exhibit F. Prior solicitation. The case file was now a sealed, airtight coffin of their own creation. The demand, the timing, the lies, the voice prints, the motive, the tools. Now, I had to analyze their plan. Plan A. The 6:32 a.m. text. Simple emotional extortion. Send $10,000 or you're a bad daughter mother. They assumed I was a weeping, hysterical mess in the waiting room and would pay to make them go away. I had refused. Plan B. The 6:41 a.m. call. This was the truly insidious part. This was the unstable mother script. They hadn't just intended to freeze my account. That was only step 1. Step 2. I realized, would have been a call to me, a call of concern. Vera would have called my personal cell. Marin? Oh, darling, I heard. The bank froze your accounts. They said you were incoherent. Oh, this is terrible. With the bills. Listen, I can fix this. I know people there. Just send me the $10,000, use Colin's account, and I'll go down there. I'll vouch for you. I'll sign as your guarantor and get it all unlocked. It was a classic rescue scam. Create the crisis, then sell the solution. They would rescue me from the very fire they had set, and I would be so grateful. I would hand them the $10,000. It was brilliant, in its own sociopathic way, and I had dismantled it in less than an hour. But there was one more piece to this. My piece. While they were plotting this, I had been working on the real solution to the hospital bill. 2 weeks ago, I had filed a Financial hardship application with St. Laurel's. Billing department. I attached my tax returns, my insurance statements, and the full surgical cost estimate. I was a single mother with a high deductible plan. I was exactly the kind of person the hospital's charitable foundation was designed to help. My application was pending. I was following the rules. I was solving the problem. Their help wasn't just fraudulent, it was an attempt to steal money from me, while I was simultaneously legitimately trying to secure charitable aid for my son. I saved the final analysis memo. The file was complete. I closed the case window and opened my corporate calendar. The clock read 7:34 a.m. I had 2 meetings to schedule. First, I booked a 2:00 p.m. slot with our general counsel. 2. Legal intake at Westridge. Jayton Anderson at Westridge. Q. CC. H. Grant at Human Resources, Westridge. Q. Subject. Urgent. Case Gray 17. Coordinated internal. External fraud attempt. Attach. Case Gray 17 secure. Zip. Access key 992G. Body. Team. I am currently at St. Laurel's, son's surgery. This morning, I was the target of a coordinated social engineering and attorney impersonation attack. The actors are Westridge members. I have compiled the full case file. I need to meet at 2 p.m. to discuss immediate legal action, restraining orders, and the termination of their memberships. I will be on site. I hit send. Second, I did something else. I had a hunch. The name Collins Solutions, LLC. Why was it active? Why was he paying for a VIP service with it? I opened the main corporate portal. I went to the vendor management and procurement section. I opened the public calendar for new vendor pitches. I scrolled to today's date, and there it was. 2:00 p.m., 3:00 p.m., conference room 14B. Pitch, Collins Solutions, LLC. Next generation VoIP and secure communication services for credit unions. My blood didn't just run cold, it froze solid. He wasn't just a fraudster, he was a vendor. He was scheduled to be in my building, on the 14th floor, in 6.5 hours. He was pitching a secure communication contract to my employer, using the exact same service he had just used to impersonate a lawyer to defraud that same employer. The audacity, it was almost beautiful in its sheer, idiotic arrogance. He had no idea who I was. He had no idea I'd be there. He was walking into the lion's den, carrying a stake. I didn't schedule a new meeting. I just forwarded the calendar invite. 2. J. Anderson at Westridge. Legal. H. Grant, Human Resources, Westridge. Q. HR. S. Fields at IT. Security. Westridge. Q. IT Security. Subject. FUD. Pitch. Collins Solutions, LLC. Body. All. This 2 p.m. pitch is our perpetrator. He is coming to us. Legal. I trust you will join me in conference room 14B at 2 p.m. sharp. I will present my findings then. I closed the tablet. The doors to the OR were still shut. The clock on the wall was still ticking. I was a mother, in a vinyl chair, waiting for her son. But the bomb was built. The timer was set. And the delivery address, I realized, was just a few floors up from my own desk. At 9:47 a.m., the double doors to the surgical wing finally opened. Dr. Aris walked out, his mask down, his eyes exhausted but clear. I was on my feet before he had taken 3 steps. "He's stable," he said. The words hit me like a physical force, my knees buckling with a relief so profound it was almost painful. "The repair is holding. He's in recovery. It'll be a few hours before he's in a room, and a little longer before he's lucid. Marin, go. Get out of this hallway. Go home. Drink some water. Change your clothes. We have your direct number. We will call you the second he's ready for you." I just nodded, unable to speak. I touched his arm. A silent, desperate thank you. I left. I walked out of St. Laurel Children's into the 10:00 a.m. sunlight of Grayford. The transition was jarring. The world was loud, bright, and completely indifferent. I did not go home. I drove to my apartment. I showered, the scalding water washing off the hospital's antiseptic smell and the night's cold fear. I stepped out of the hoodie and jeans I'd worn as a mother. I stepped into my work uniform, dark gray slacks, a silk shell, and a sharply tailored black blazer, the armor. I arrived at the Westridge Credit Union Tower at 1:50 p.m. Conference Room 14B is where we sign the big contracts. It's designed to impress, to intimidate, to project quiet, unassailable wealth. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the entire Grayford skyline. The table is a single, massive slab of polished walnut that smells faintly of lemon oil. The 10 leather chairs around it hiss softly when you sit. At the front, an 80-inch 4K LED screen dominates the wall, dark and waiting. A glass of ice water was already at the head of the table, the condensation slowly tracing a ring on the perfect wood. My audience was already seated, waiting for me, not for the vendor, for me, John Anderson, our general counsel, Helen Grant, head of human resources, Sam Fields, our director of IT security, and at the head of the table, in the chair with the sweating water glass, was Robert Davies, our CEO. They had all read the case file. They had all seen the zip folder. "Marin," Davies said, his voice quiet. He didn't offer condolences. He didn't have to. His eyes, fixed on me, were hard as flint. "Are you ready?" "Yes, sir," I said. I sat at the far end of the table, opening my tablet. I was a part of the room, not a presenter. I was part of the jury. At 2:01 p.m., the heavy walnut door opened. They entered, the collective. It was like watching a bad sitcom. Colin led the way, brimming with a false, practiced confidence. He was wearing a new, ill-fitting navy blue vest, a pathetic attempt at a fintech uniform. Vera was behind him, in a floral dress that was too bright for the room, clutching a stack of glossy presentation folders, and last, tailing them like a miserable shadow, was Finn. He was carrying the laptop bag and a box of what looked like branded stress balls. He wouldn't look up. They had a pull-up banner. Finn fumbled with it, and it sprang open, showcasing their new logo, Colin Solutions, Connecting Families. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. "Mr. Davies, a pleasure," Colin boomed, striding forward, hand extended. "Colin Blake, we're ready to show you how our system can revolutionize your internal communications." Davies did not take his hand. He simply gestured to the chairs opposite us. "Please, sit." The three of them sat down. Colin, in the middle, beamed. Vera started arranging her folders. Finn, head down, began plugging in the laptop. "Mr. Blake," Davies said, his voice a flat, boardroom monotone. "Before we begin your pitch, we have a standing policy for all potential communications vendors. We begin with a mandatory 10-minute security review, presented by our own team. It's a case study on recent vulnerabilities. Ms. Blake, if you would." Colin's smile faltered. He looked at me. His eyes held a flicker of, "What are you doing here?" The niece, the mid-level bank drone, he dismissed it instantly, giving me a patronizing nod, as if allowing me to speak. I didn't stand. I didn't need to. I tapped my tablet. The 80-inch screen, the weapon, came to life. The first slide was simple, black, with white text. Case study, Gray 17. Anatomy of a coordinated social engineering attack, redacted. My voice was the T3 voice, the anonymous, institutional, recording voice. At 06:15 this morning, a Westridge member was in a high-stress medical situation. The subject of the attack was the leveraging of this medical crisis. I saw Vera's hands pause on her folders. The attack began at 6:32 a.m. I continued. I clicked to the next slide. It was a screenshot of the text message. The names were blurred. The text was not. "Wire $10,000 now. Family is supposed to help. So your son can be at ease." The room was absolutely silent. I could hear the faint hiss of the HVAC system. I heard Helen Grant, from HR, let out a tiny, sharp sigh. I looked at the trio. Finn was staring at the table as if it held the secrets to the universe. Vera was picking at her cuticle, her floral print knee jigging under the table. Colin was frowning, a look of deep, confused annoyance. He was watching a presentation about his own crime, and he hadn't made the connection. The arrogance was breathtaking. When the initial demand failed, I said, my voice never wavering, the perpetrators escalated. They initiated a series of calls to our Tier 1 and Tier 3 lines. Next slide. 0641. Call 1. Actor impersonates concerned relative. Falsely claims member is mentally unstable. 0703. Call 2. Actor impersonates family guardian. 0706. Call 3. Actor impersonates attorney for a family trust. We will now play selections from the T3 escalation audio, I said. I pressed the play icon. First, Vera's voice, captured in high fidelity, shrieked through the $20,000 speaker system. Listen to me. I am her family. I am her aunt. I have rights. I have the right to protect my family. Vera's head snapped up. Her face was ashen. Her eyes met mine, wide with dawning, catastrophic horror. She knew that voice. She knew that call. I didn't pause. I clicked the next file. Colin's Mr. Alden voice filled the room. Pompous, false, and now pathetic. My name is Mr. Alden. I am the attorney. I am ordering you to place an immediate protective hold. Colin went rigid. He looked from the screen to me. His face, which had been a mask of sales pitch confidence, had collapsed. I let his voice hang in the air for one more second. Then I hit the final audio file. The cold, synthesized, male voice of our legal warning blasted into the walnut-scented air. A violation of United States Code. Title 18, Section 1344, falsifying legal authority, punishable by fines and imprisonment. This interaction is logged and has been forwarded. I stopped the recording. The silence that followed was a physical weight. It pressed down on everyone in the room. Colin was pale, his mouth slightly open. Vera looked like she was going to be physically ill. Finn looked like he was about to bolt. Robert Davies, the CEO, leaned forward. He didn't look at them. He looked at me. His voice was cold, surgical. Ms. Blake, this is an exceptionally disturbing case study. Is there a reason you are presenting this to this specific vendor? This was the moment. The stage was set. The trap was sprung. The audience was waiting. I turned, slowly, to face the three of them. I let my eyes rest on Colin. I let him see me, not Marin, the niece, not Marin, the resource, Ms. Blake, the senior investigator. Yes, Mr. Davies, I said, my voice clear and cold. The case study is this vendor. I looked back at my team. The member targeted this morning, the employee who was at the hospital during her child's surgery, was me. I let that hang in the air for a full 3 seconds. Then I clicked to the final slide. The redactions were gone. It was just a list. Perpetrators, Colin Blake. VoIP source, Colin Solutions, LLC. Vera Lane. Finn Blake. I read the names aloud. A formal indictment. Colin Blake, Vera Lane, Finn Blake. This is... Colin sputtered. Finding his voice, he shot to his feet, his chair scraping violently on the floor. This is slander. This is a family dispute. This has nothing to live with. You can't. This is... Mr. Blake, Davies said. He stood up. 2. The CEO, the man who signed the checks. This is a federal banking matter. It involves wire fraud, social engineering, and the impersonation of an attorney, all targeting our institution and our employee. The pitch is terminated. Colin stared at him, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. Davies didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Mr. Fields, he said, nodding to our head of security. Please escort Mr. Blake, Ms. Lane, and Mr. Blake from the building. Their vendor access is revoked. Legal? He nodded to Anderson. We'll be in touch. The contract wasn't just paused, it was dead, and the three of them were just, finally, realizing it. The heavy walnut door clicked shut, sealing the three of them out. Sam Fields, our IT security head, had escorted them personally. His expression unreadable. He didn't come back. I knew he was already at his desk, initiating the global access lockout. In the sudden, pressurized silence of Conference Room 14B, only the four of us remained. Robert Davies, the CEO, John Anderson, our general counsel, Helen Grant, head of HR, and me. The 80-inch screen still glowed with the final slide, the list of their names. Anderson was the first to speak. He tapped his pen on his leather-bound legal pad. His voice was dry, academic. Well, that was brazen. He turned to me, not with sympathy, but with the sharp focus of a surgeon. Marin, I've reviewed the file. This isn't just a compliance violation. This is a textbook. Multi-part criminal conspiracy. Attempted wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. 1343. Falsifying legal authority under 1344. Willful misrepresentation and attempted unauthorized access. They didn't just break our rules, they broke federal law. Helen Grant shook her head, her face tight with a controlled, corporate fury. The risk profile here is catastrophic. A potential vendor, pitching a secure communications package, using that exact same service to commit fraud against our institution and our employee. During her child's surgery, she looked at Davies. Robert, this isn't just a termination. This is a code red, ethical risk. I'm blacklisting Collins Solutions and all known affiliates from our procurement system, permanently. Agreed, Davies said. He turned his attention, his full CEO-level focus, onto me. The air crackled. Marin, as your employer, I'm satisfied. You protected the institution. You brought the evidence. Now, he leaned forward slightly, as your credit union, what do you, our member, require? This was the pivot, the button. I switched the view on my tablet, closing the admin-level case file and opening my standard issue member portal. The customer-facing side. I began to type. As a member of Westridge Credit Union, I said, my voice formal. I am filing an official harassment and fraud complaint against members Colin Blake, Vera Lane, and Finn Blake. A look of sharp understanding passed between Anderson and Davies. This was not an employee action. This was a customer action. It triggered an entirely different, automated, and legally mandated set of protocols. I referenced Case Gray 17. I attached the evidence package. I named them as the aggressors. I detailed the unauthorized access attempts and the emotional coercion. I hit Submit. A small success notification appeared on my screen. I knew precisely what that single button press had just done. Deep in the Westridge servers, a cascade of automated actions had just executed, all without a single human intervention. The first domino. Protocol 113A. Member account lockout. An immediate, hard lock, flagged as fraud pending legal, was placed on the member profiles of all three. Their debit cards were now inert plastic. Their online banking portals, if they tried to log in, would now display a single, stark message. Account disabled. Contact Westridge Legal. Their $12.50 was frozen. The second domino. Protocol 290B. Communications firewall. Any email from their known addresses, any call from their known phone numbers, was now automatically rerouted from all customer service queues. They would be sent to a single, unmonitored voicemail box in the legal department, a black hole from which nothing returned. They were, in effect, silenced. John, I said, looking at our general counsel, they hold accounts at two other institutions in the city, Grayford Community Trust and Eastside Financial. Both are in the shared risk network. A cold, thin smile touched Anderson's lips. He was already typing on his laptop. Our credit risk department is issuing the bulletin as we speak. This was the third, and most devastating, domino. The shared risk agreement was a covenant between credit unions to protect each other from high-risk members. Anderson's bulletin: active fraud investigation, willful misrepresentation, high probability of default, was a digital flare. By 3:00 p.m., every creditor they had in the city would know. The demand for payment letters for their maxed-out credit cards, their overdrawn lines of credit, their perpetually late car loans, they would all be triggered. The entire, fragile, kited house of cards was coming down. This wasn't revenge. This was the system, the cold, logical, unfeeling machine of finance, protecting itself. They had kicked the hornet's nest, and the nest was responding. Davies stood. The meeting was over. Helen, I want that termination notice sent 5 minutes ago. John, draft the cease and desist. Marin, he looked at me, and his voice, for the first time, softened. Go to the hospital. Go be with your son. We have this. I nodded. I packed my tablet into my bag. I walked out of the silent, walnut-paneled room. As I rode the glass elevator down to the lobby, my corporate phone buzzed. A chain of emails. The system was moving faster than I was. The first was the official notification from procurement, sent to Collins Solutions address. 2. Colin Blake at Collins Solutions, biz. Subject: cancellation, vendor bid. RFP 449. Body: Mr. Blake, following a mandatory security review. Westridge Credit Union has canceled your bid. A review of your firm's activities has determined that Collins Solutions, LLC, fails to meet our institution's non-negotiable standards of integrity, ethics, and security. A permanent ban on any future vendor relationship is in effect. Do not contact us further. It was cold. It was final. It was perfect. The second buzz: John Anderson's office. He had already drafted and sent the formal warning letters, via registered mail and email, to Vera and Finn. Unauthorized contact. Harassment of Westridge member M. Blake Ms. Lane, Mr. Blake. This letter serves as formal, legal notice. Any attempt by you, or any agent acting on your behalf, to contact Marin Blake regarding financial matters, or any other matter, will be logged as harassment. All such communications are being recorded and will be forwarded to the appropriate law enforcement authorities. Govern yourselves accordingly. He had built a legal firewall around me. They could no longer reach me, even if their phones worked. I stepped out of the elevator and into the main lobby. My work was done, but I had one more stop. I walked to my car. The exhaustion of the day, the week, the years, finally settling on me. I had the case file, the audio recordings, the evidence of them, in their own voices, trying to leverage my son's surgery. I thought of the hospital. I thought of the hardship letter I had filed. I pulled out my personal phone. I opened my email. I found the contact for the billing administrator at the St. Laurel Foundation, the hospital's charitable wing. 2. Billing admin at stlaurel.org. Subject: FWD. Hardship application. Blake. Redacted. Dear Ms. Alvarez, this is Marin Blake. Thank you for reviewing my hardship application. I am writing to provide supplementary evidence of the financial and emotional duress related to my son's procedure. This morning, during his surgery, I was the target of a coordinated financial extortion attempt by my relatives. They attempted to leverage the crisis to defraud me of $10,000. I am attaching the official, time-stamped audio file of their call to my financial institution. You will hear them falsely claim I am mentally unstable in an attempt to gain control of my assets. I am providing this to you as proof of the extraordinary circumstances surrounding this medical event. This is the truth of my situation. Thank you. Marin Blake. Attach. Case Gray 17. Audio composite. MP3. I hit send. It was a long shot, but the file was a receipt. It deserved to be cashed. I drove to the hospital. I sat by my son's bed in the recovery unit. He was sleeping, his face pale. But the line on the heart monitor was steady, rhythmic. The most beautiful sound I had ever heard. My phone buzzed. A personal email. From billingadmin@estlaurel.org. Ms. Blake, we have received and reviewed your supplemental materials. The Foundation Committee has unanimously approved your application. 100% of your remaining out-of-pocket costs, co-payments, and deductibles associated with this procedure have been covered by the Laurel Children's Fund. We are so very sorry you had to endure this. Please, focus on your son. Attach, receipt paid in full, PDF. I opened the PDF. Paid in full. The bill, the weapon they had tried to use against me, it was gone. In the end, their own words, their own greed, had paid it. I opened my text messages. The family-only group chat was still there. A tomb, silent since 6:32 a.m. I tapped the paperclip icon. I attached the PDF, the paid in full receipt. I typed one sentence. Paid. Thanks so much for all your concern today. I hit send. I watched the read receipts appear. One by one. Colin, Vera, Finn. The silence was absolute. No one was typing. No one replied. I just sat there, in the quiet dimness of the recovery room, holding my sleeping son's hand, watching the screen. 3 minutes passed. A small, gray system notification appeared in the chat. Colin Blake has changed the group photo. The glossy, perfect, smiling Thanksgiving photo, the one of the collective, was gone. It was replaced by the default, anonymous, gray icon. It was the quietest, most pathetic, most complete surrender I had ever seen. For 3 days, the silence was absolute. My son was home. He was weak, tired, but the steady thump of his repaired heart was the only sound that mattered. Our apartment, which had felt like a pressurized waiting room, was finally just a home. The paid in full receipt from St. Laurel's was tacked to the refrigerator, a quiet, white and black banner of victory. The family-only group chat was a digital tomb. I had blocked their numbers on my personal phone. The legal C&D from Westridge had firewalled my corporate accounts. The war was over. I had won. Then, on the 4th day, I received an email. It was from Colin Blake at Collin Solutions, Biz. The subject line was, Formal Legal Demand. Attached was a PDF. Letter of Demand, Westridge Blake, PDF. I didn't feel fear. I felt curious. It was the same curiosity an exterminator feels when a cockroach, already sprayed, tries to wiggle one last antenna. I opened the document. It was 2 pages of glorious, catastrophic incompetence. It was a cease and desist and a demand for restitution, apparently drafted by the legal division of Collin Solutions, LLC. He was demanding $10,000. The $10,000 I had cost him, he accused me, of slander, libel, defamation of character, and, my personal favorite, malicious, tortious interference with a prospective business advantage. He had found a thesaurus. He claimed that my false and inflammatory presentation in Conference Room 14B was a premeditated attack designed to slander his good name and destroy his business. He was claiming I had ambushed him. He was, in effect, suing me for the consequences of his own felonies. This was the final, predictable act of a cornered narcissist. Reverse victim and offender. I didn't reply. I didn't even breathe heavily. I simply forwarded the email to one person, John Anderson, our general counsel. My only note was, FYI, they seem to have found a word processor. My phone rang less than 60 seconds later. It was Anderson's private line. Marin, he said. His voice was strange. He sounded like he was suppressing a cough. I'm here, John. I just opened the PDF. He cleared his throat. I wanted to call and personally thank you. Thank me, sir? Yes. I haven't laughed this hard since my first year of law school. This is a work of art. I heard him tap his desk. Marin, do you understand what he's done? This isn't just stupid. This is a gift. First, It's a template he downloaded from https Google.com search QSL legal templates for dummies.com or something. He left the placeholder, and I quote, "Insert your company name here." In the third paragraph. Second, his entire tortious interference claim is based on the idea that he had a prospective advantage, but our system has already logged him as a high-risk vendor before the meeting. Based on his attempt to impersonate a lawyer, he had no advantage. He was walking into a security audit he just didn't know about. Anderson took a breath. I could hear the smile in his voice. But here is the coup de grace. Marin, the cherry on this Sunday of idiocy. He signed it. Colin Blake, Esquire, the designation for a licensed attorney. The man he impersonated on the phone, Anderson continued, has now been impersonated, in writing, in a legal threat, sent directly to a bank's general counsel. He just committed a new felony in the process of complaining about the last one. He's just too stupid to quit. So what do we do, John? I asked. Do? He chuckled. We reply. I'm not going to dignify this with a legal argument. I am simply going to reply to Mr. Blake Esquire with a summary of the facts, a nice tidy data packet, and I'm going to CC the State Bar's Unlicensed Practice of Law Division, just as a professional courtesy. John Anderson's official summary of facts was a thing of beauty. It was not a letter, it was a digital box of evidence. His reply to Colin Blake at Colin Solutions, Biz, contained 5 attachments. Attach 1, audio file 6:41 a.m., MP3. Vera, unstable, life-threatening surgery. Attach 2, audio file 7:06 a.m., MP3. Colin, Mr. Alden, competency hearing. Attach 3, transcript VoIP source, Colin Solutions, PDF. The log proving the calls came from his company. Attach 4, SMS log 6:32 a.m., PNG, the 10K, so your son can be at ease demand. Attach 5, Hospital Foundation Auth 7:34 a.m., PDF. The charity confirmation, proving his actions were an attack on a hardship case. And then, John added one more link. P.S. His email concluded. As your tortious interference claim seems to be based on our public statements, you will find the final compliance report attached. As a regulated financial institution, Westridge is required to publicly post a summary of all vendor contracts terminated due to ethical breaches. Your firm's failure to meet integrity standards is now, as you wished, a matter of public record. Have your actual legal counsel contact me if you have questions. He had done it. He had taken Colin's slander complaint and handed him the very thing he feared, a permanent, public, factual record of his own corruption. The response from Colin was instantaneous silence. The demand letter was retracted. The Colin Solutions, LLC, legal division, dissolved as quickly as it had been imagined. He knew he was trapped. But the collective wasn't done. They just switched arenas. If they couldn't use the law, a system of rules, or the bank, a system of logic, they would retreat to the one place they felt they had power, the court of public opinion. Vera took to social media. A Facebook post appeared, set to public. It was a vague, passive-aggressive masterpiece of manipulation. It is so heartbreaking when family just forgets what family means. You spend your whole life caring for someone, and when you try to help them in a crisis, you get punished for just trying to love. Some people's hearts are just made of ice, praying for everyone. It was a good script. It was the Concerned Aunt script, rewritten for a broader audience. It got 12 likes in the first 5 minutes. Then, the comments started. The first one was from a distant cousin. Help? What crisis? Marin's son? The second was from a neighbor. I don't understand. Vera? Punished? I heard from Carol that you weren't even at the hospital. The third one was the kill shot. a local community member, someone I didn't even know, who must have been connected to someone at Westridge or the hospital. Wait, are you the one who called her bank during the surgery to try and freeze her accounts? Is that what helping is? How exactly was demanding $10,000 loving? The tide turned, fast. The internet, unlike a Tier 1 rep, does not buy the emotional script. The replies became a torrent of digital pitchforks. A single mother. While her child was in surgery. Family? Vera, in her attempt to paint me as cold, had only succeeded in exposing her own predatory warmth. She deleted the post 3 hours later, but the screenshots were already circulating. Finally, there was Finn, the silent partner, the whisperer. He tried the last, desperate angle, the private message. A DM popped up on an old, forgotten social media account. "Hey Marin, look, this is all a giant misunderstanding. You know how Colin gets. He's old school. And Vera is just emotional. They didn't mean it like it sounded. I promise. Can we please just talk? Just you and me. No lawyers, no bank people. Just family, please." I looked at the message. It's all a misunderstanding. He didn't mean it. Just family. It was the abuser's classic appeal for a reset, an attempt to erase the receipts and return to the status quo. I didn't block him. I didn't rage. I just copied one thing. The phone number, the one from John Anderson's legal warning. I pasted it. 319-555-0199. The number for the Westridge Legal Department's automated, unmonitored, black hole voicemail box. The read receipt appeared instantly. He knew what it meant. He didn't write back. I went to work the next day. I opened my internal dashboard. Case Gray 17 was sitting in my queue, waiting for a final disposition. I saw Barron, my colleague, had added one last internal note. Tag. Nickname. The Grayford Trio. Their infamy was now permanent. A part of our internal training database. They were a what not to do example. I typed the final closing memo. Status, resolved. Member accounts terminated. Legal cease and desist issued and acknowledged. Shared risk network bulletin distributed. Recurrence prevented. I hit close case. It was done. But the process wasn't. The system was still working. I got home that night, sifting through my own mail, bills, junk, a catalog, and in the pile, a letter. It wasn't for me. It was for Vera. It had been misdelivered to my address. The address she always used for emergencies when her own was too hot with creditors. It was from Eastside Financial. Final notice. Demand for immediate payment. The shared risk bulletin. It had worked. Her line of credit, the one she used to juggle her other debts, had been called in. The bank knew she was a confirmed fraud risk. 2 days later, another one, this time for Colin. Notice of intent to repossess. His leased Audi Q5. The management car, the failed Westridge contract wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was the only cash flow they had to service their debts. The collective was officially bankrupt. I didn't feel a thrill. I didn't feel anything at all. I just took a pen, crossed out my address, and wrote, "Return to sender" on the envelopes. I didn't have to answer. The process was doing all the talking for me. A month later, the main atrium of the Westridge Tower was unrecognizable. The usual, hushed, granite and glass professionalism was gone, replaced by the low hum of a crowd. Banners hung from the second-floor mezzanine, printed with large, sans-serif words. Integrity, security, community. It was Westridge's annual Integrity Day, an event we opened to our partners, our high-value members, and even the local business community. It was a PR event, a networking opportunity, and a showcase of our commitment to financial security. This year, I was the keynote speaker. The new face of fraud is not a stranger in a foreign country, I was saying, my voice amplified by the microphone, clear and calm over the audience of 200. It is not a Nigerian prince. The most dangerous threat is the one that calls you family. I was on a low stage, a large screen behind me showing an anonymized, abstracted flowchart of the Case Gray 17 attack. I was telling my story, but with the names, dates, and all personal identifiers scrubbed. I was presenting the Grayford trio as a hypothetical, a case study, a textbook example of social engineering. My son was at home, with a sitter. He was laughing again. I was here, in my black blazer, holding a laser pointer. In the grand lobby, to my left, was the centerpiece of the event, the Fraud Prevention Showcase. We had 3 of our new, state-of-the-art ATMs set up, not for use, but as a demonstration. Interns in Westridge polos stood nearby, ready to explain the new features: instant card skimmer detection, biometric security options, and most critically, real-time account flag integration. I was mid-sentence, explaining the psychology of the SOS relative script, when the main glass doors of the atrium slid open, and they walked in. The Grayford trio, it was so audacious. I almost paused. They were not supposed to be here. Their memberships were terminated. Their vendor status was blacklisted. But this was a public event, a community event, and they were here to perform. Colin was in his tragic blue vest. Vera was in the same bright floral dress from the pitch meeting. Finn was walking slightly behind them, his eyes darting around, clutching his phone like a talisman. They were not there to attack. They were there to be seen. They were there to project, with every ounce of their toxic arrogance, that the rumors were false, that they were still players, that they were respected members of the Grayford business community. They were there to save face. They hadn't seen me on the stage. They were too busy scanning the crowd, looking for important hands to shake. I didn't falter. I kept speaking, but I was watching them. The perpetrator's primary tool, I continued, my voice echoing slightly, is the belief that social rules are stronger than security protocols. They believe that who they are matters more than what they are doing. Colin saw an executive from a local title company. He beamed, stepping forward to shake his hand. The executive's smile was thin, polite. Colin, needing to perform, clapped the man on the shoulder. "Just let me grab some cash from the machine," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I'll get the first round of coffee." And he turned. He walked, with that same terrible, confident swagger, right up to the Fraud Prevention Showcase ATM, the one with the instant threat detection. Banner above it, an intern, a young woman, started to say, "Sir, that's a demo." "It's fine. It's fine." Colin waved her off. "I'm a senior member." He pulled his Westridge debit card from his wallet. I knew, as did the system, that this card was no longer a key. It was a piece of dead plastic linked to a terminated account flagged fraud pending legal. It was on a global, do not honor, do not return list. He slid the card into the slot. The machine's screen lit up. The machine whirred, a long, quiet pause. The ATM did not whir back. There was a heavy mechanical thunk-clunk from deep inside the machine. The screen, bright and merciless, flashed a message in red. "Card retained. Account locked. Please contact your branch for assistance." Colin's face was a study in failed gravity. The smile froze, then melted. He stared at the screen. He patted the ATM as if it were a disobedient dog. "There's an error," he said, his voice suddenly small. "Sir, I can't help you with that," the intern said, her voice now wary. Vera, seeing the performance fail, went into damage control mode. She let out a brittle laugh. "Oh, Colin, honestly, those machines never work." She turned to the pop-up coffee bar, the one set up for the guests. She was going to smooth it over, a social gesture. "2 lattes, please," she trilled to the barista. She pulled out her card, the one from Eastside Financial. The one I knew was now on a high-risk watch. The barista, another intern, took the card and tapped it on the POS terminal. A loud, ugly beep. The intern's face puckered. "I'm sorry, ma'am. It was declined." Declined? Vera's voice was a shriek. That's impossible. Run it again. Swipe it. The intern, embarrassed for her, swiped the card. The terminal screen, visible to the entire line, flashed a block of red text. Payment failed. Reason: terms violation. Code 7, high-risk profile. Terms violation? Vera whispered, her face ashen. What does that? People in line were starting to stare. Finn, seeing both his partners shot down, did the only thing he knew how to do. He looked at his phone. He had to know what was wrong. He had to see the balances. He frantically tapped his Westridge app icon. The app opened. But it wasn't his account page. It was a full-screen, non-negotiable security lockdown, a bright red shield. Account access restricted. To verify your identity, please answer the following security question. What was the name of your first childhood pet? He stared at it, his thumb hovering over the screen. A question he had never set, an account that was no longer his. He had no answer. He was locked out. It was all over in less than 90 seconds. The three of them, standing in the middle of a security showcase, financially naked, and then, the final, perfect nail. A man standing near the ATM showcase, wearing a press badge from the Grayford Business Journal, lifted his phone. He wasn't taking a picture of the ATM. He was taking a video of Colin, who was now hissing at the intern, demanding his card back. He was documenting Vera, who was trying to find a different card in her purse. He was documenting Finn, staring at his useless phone. The reporter didn't know their names. He didn't need to. He just saw the scene. Three desperate people failing, very publicly, at a banking integrity event. I hadn't missed a beat. I was at the end of my presentation. My eyes met the reporter's lens. My voice, amplified by the speakers, cut through the quiet, localized chaos of their collapse. Fraud prevention is not about punishment, I said, my gaze sweeping over the scene. It is not revenge. I paused. They all looked at me. Colin, Vera, Finn. They finally saw me, on stage, with the microphone. It is a necessary act, I finished. It is about protecting our members, our institutions, and the very people who deserve to be protected. I set the microphone down. For a beat, there was silence. Then, the atrium erupted in applause. The sound was a physical wave, a roar of approval for my speech, for my hypothetical case study. The sound washed over the Grayford trio. It was the soundtrack to their final, public humiliation. Colin stopped hissing. Vera stopped fumbling. Finn put his phone in his pocket. Under the cover of the applause, drowned out by the sound of my success, they turned. They didn't walk. They receded. They backed away from the ATM, from the coffee bar, from the crowd. They moved, as one, toward the glass doors. And for the first time since I had known them, they were utterly, completely, and publicly silent. I didn't stay for the applause. It wasn't for me, not really. It was for the idea of security, for the institution. The applause was just noise, the closing credits on a film I had already walked out of. I slipped out the side door of the atrium, my ID badge thumping against my blazer, and didn't look back. The drive was quiet. The 3:00 p.m. sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows. I drove past the Westridge Tower, a monument of glass and steel, and headed back to the one place that mattered. St. Laurel Children's. The smell of the hospital was different this time. The antiseptic was still there, but the underlying note of fear was gone. Now, it just smelled like clean floors and quiet work. I didn't go to the surgical waiting room. I didn't go to the PICU. I went to the step-down wing, room 412. I pushed the door open. He was awake. The room was dim, the blinds partially drawn. A cartoon was playing on the small television, the volume low. He wasn't watching it. He was looking at the ceiling. "Hey, buddy," I whispered. His head turned. Slowly, a small, weak smile found me. "Hey, Mom." I sat on the edge of his bed, my hand finding his. His skin was warm. The only sound in the room was the quiet, rhythmic beep of the heart monitor next to the bed. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. No, I realized, it was the second most beautiful. His voice was the first. We just sat there for a minute. Me, in my corporate armor, him, in his small blue hospital gown. You were gone a long time, he said, his voice hoarse. I had to go to work, I said. Had to finish something. He nodded, processing that. He looked at me, his eyes clearer than I had seen them in weeks. The fog of anesthesia and pain finally lifting. He was my son again. Mom? He asked, his voice very small. I'm right here. He licked his chapped lips. The big bill. For the operation. Did you have to pay it? The question. The one a child should never, ever have to ask. The invisible, crushing weight he had been carrying. The burden my family had tried to leverage. I didn't speak. I reached into my bag, past the corporate tablet and the security badge. I pulled out my wallet. From the main fold, I took out a single piece of paper, folded into a neat square. The PDF I had printed at the office before I left for the hospital. I unfolded it. I held it out for him. His eyes, slow and serious, scanned the page. He was too young to understand the billing codes, the insurance jargon, but he understood the two words at the bottom, the one stamped in thick, black, definitive ink. Paid, he whispered, tracing the letters with his finger. Paid in full. I confirmed, my voice thick. It's all done, buddy. You don't ever have to think about that again. All you have to do is get better. He looked from the paper to my face, searching. He saw the truth. He let out a long, slow breath, a sound of a weight being set down. He nodded, once, and his shoulders, which had been hiked up with tension even in his sleep, finally relaxed. He sank back into the pillows, his eyes closing. As I sat there, watching him drift into a real, peaceful, unburdened sleep. My personal phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, silencing it before it could make a sound. A text notification. From the group chat. Group chat name has been changed to Just Us. Just Us. The final pathetic act, the drawing of a new line in the sand. The last, desperate attempt to reframe the narrative, to exclude me, to paint themselves as the survivors, huddling together against the cold. I looked at the new name. Just Us. I tapped the top of the screen. I scrolled down. Colin, Vera, Finn, and the button, at the very bottom, bright red. Leave group. I pressed it. Are you sure you want to leave Just Us? I pressed confirm. The screen flickered, and the chat disappeared. It was gone. I locked my phone, the black screen, for a half second, caught the reflection from the window, in the glass. I saw the dim hospital room. I saw the bed. I saw the steady, rhythmic line of the heart monitor. I saw two people, a mother and her son. I looked at the reflection. It was a complete set. It was a family. I put the phone back in my bag. I didn't need to send a final message. I didn't need the last word. My absence was the last word. The heart monitor next to the bed beeped. Steady, even, a new kind of quiet, a new, peaceful baseline. A nurse came in, her shoes squeaking softly. She smiled at me as she checked his chart. "Excuse me," I said. She looked up. I held up the folded paper, the receipt. "Can you please file this?" I asked. "I want this, the paid-in-full receipt, to be officially added to his medical chart." "Of course, honey," she said, taking it from me. "We'll put it right in his file." She took the paper and clipped it to the front of his chart. A final, official, undeniable fact. It was done. The evidence, not the debt, not the anger, not the family, was what closed the story. The receipt was the end. The screen goes black. Thank you so much for listening to this story. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So please drop a comment below and let's connect and share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like this video, and give us your support by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by even more people.